It is wonderful to be speaking today at the Global New Economy Conference. My name is Steve Hoffman, but in Silicon Valley, they call me Captain Hoff because I am the captain and chairman of Founderspace, one of the world's leading startup accelerators and global venture builders. We have over 50 partners in 22 countries, and our mission is to link Silicon Valley with the rest of the world. We want to help entrepreneurs from the very beginning with their business models, raising capitals, and scaling their businesses. I am also author of 3 award-winning books: Make Elephants Fly, which is all about the process of radical innovation; Surviving a Startup, which teaches entrepreneurs everything they need to know to scale their businesses and turn them into unicorns; and The 5 Forces, which talks about new, emerging technologies which are poised to transform industry, society, and our lives, like artificial intelligence, gene editing, and how we will insert electronics into our bodies, like brain-computer interfaces, and drive towards superintelligence. Today, I'm going to talk about AI, the promise and the power. What is happening in AI, and how will AI in the next few years transform what we are doing in business, government, and economies around the world? GPT-5 is coming. So the big news now is GPT-5 is in development. Google's also developing the next version of Bard. Facebook has its own AI that it's developing. All these new platforms are competing. And what they're doing is they're getting more and more powerful. They're getting bigger and bigger models. And so the next versions will be far more capable than the previous versions. Where is this headed? Well, it's very interesting. Where it's headed is that as we use these tools, they are just going to become better and better at understanding us in their own mathematical way and giving us results that are meaningful to humans. Because at the end of the day, the data doesn't, what it gives us, it doesn't matter unless it's meaningful and actionable by us. So the real test is not how big the model is. Nobody cares how large the model is. In fact, larger models consume way more computing power. What we care about is the results it gives us. And so far, we've seen an exponential rise in the quality of the results based on the size of the model. The bigger the model, the better the results. Will this trend continue? Well, probably up to a certain point. After you get to a certain point, it probably won't make much difference how much more data you feed it. Because once it's trained well, it's trained well. And people are now taking other approaches, really smart approaches that reduce the size of the model. One of these is Orca, which learns from explanations. Now, Orca is not this fun whale here. Orca is actually the name Microsoft gave its progressive learning algorithm. And what is a progressive learning algorithm? What it does is it actually relies on other models, larger models. So Orca is a relatively small model, and they've kept it small by having it learn, training it by asking other models, let's say ChatGPT-4, asking ChatGPT-4 questions. And the question tied to the answer it gives it actually helps it become smarter without having to have all the data and processing power of a larger model. So this is revolutionary. Basically, they are saying, look, we can get Orca potentially down to the size that it could run on a laptop. This smaller language model could run on a laptop, yet it could approximate the quality of responses. And remember, I said the quality of responses is all that matters. Doesn't matter how large the model is. Doesn't matter how much data you have. The quality of responses as high as much larger models. So, and that means much less computing power. That means smaller companies can run these, a much more competitive environment. It will change the dynamic of generative AI. Gecko is even smaller. And the question is smaller better? So Gecko is a very small language model developed by Google. And what Google is doing is they're saying, look, we could get these language models so small that they could even run on a smartphone. So imagine this. You could have, instead of having a gazillion computers running NVIDIA graphic cards, which is extremely expensive, sucking up huge amounts of power, we're going to give you a tiny little model that can run on a phone, or potentially run on an IoT device in a factory, in a business, in cars. Like you could literally have models running in cars. Now, why would you do that? Well, because you're pushing the intelligence to the edges of the network. And some of these edges, they may not even have internet connectivity. You might not need it to get an AI, a generative AI, to solve simpler problems, specific problems to specific needs. And this is amazing, because what it means is, first of all, you won't have a monopoly by the large players, Google and Facebook and OpenAI with their huge platforms. A lot of startups can start developing very specific models for specific needs in locations, like on a factory room floor. They don't need to know everything on the internet. They don't need to answer every question, but they do need to be trained on data and understand certain things well. So what we're seeing is a shift, and we have all these cute animals like orca, gecko. Google also has a bison, a much bigger model, a huge model. So we are seeing models of various sizes with various attributes and various advantages and disadvantages. That is a big trend taking place right now. Will AI write and speak for you? I'm not talking about using AI like ChatGPT to write an article. What I am talking about is it actually responding on your behalf to other human beings. And the answer is yes. Google's already been experimenting with this, with an app that will actually answer your phone calls and answer questions for people. These haven't been fully productized, but they will be coming into the marketplace. So in the not too distant future, we're going to see where you will call up somebody, and instead of getting them, you'll get their AI. And you'll say, hey, is Bill free on Friday? Does Bill like to eat? Is he a vegetarian, or can we go to a steakhouse? And the AI will respond and say, okay, schedule that meeting for me and Bill, and the AI will take care of it. We may even have my AI talking to your AI. So we wouldn't talk to each other, we just let our AIs talk to each other, figure out a good restaurant, a good location, a good time for both of us to meet. This is the future, right? AIs will be writing for us, we'll be in the office, and we'll go to the AI and say, hey, send this message to this person and go through all this data and let them know the status of the shipments and which vendors are late and how much we're paying, and the AI will take care of it all. It will literally go and coordinate with all the people in your business. AIs will be augmenting everything we do and how we communicate with each other. AI and healthcare. So already, people have smartwatches that are monitoring their health, gathering data. Well, the AI is going to get more proactive. The AI is going to actually literally be coaching you. It'll be your personal coach based on your information, all the data it has about you, your health history. And these AIs will become so smart because we could actually give them permission, according to HIPAA and other laws, to access our healthcare data. When we go to our doctor and we have blood tests taken and we get all the lab results, like the lab results are really hard to understand. But an AI could literally take those results and then also correlate them to our personal data that we're getting from our wearable device, our iWatch or smartwatch, that's giving it personal data on us throughout a long period of time, sleep data, health data, all sorts of data, blood pressure, and then it could actually diagnose us and come up with much more superior diagnoses than a human doctor would. Because a human doctor simply wouldn't be able to process all this data. They wouldn't have all the data in all the medical journals combined with our personal data from our body and any lab data that we get taken. Imagine combining all three of those. The type of healthcare we will get will be far superior in the not too distant future than we have now. And we can get it on a continuous basis. So it can be proactive. Literally, it could alert us of problems before our doctor even knows, before we know. And then, of course, we will go talk to a human doctor and make sure that the AI is giving us good advice. But at the same, it will be a combination, a symbiosis of human beings, like a human doctor, and this generative AI and all the data that we have access to. AI bosses. Are we going to be ruled by AI? Literally, will AI be coming into the workplace and acting as our boss? Well, let's ask a few questions. What does a boss normally do? Well, number one, they identify potential, like who are good employees. Well, AI does this very well. In fact, AI can interview people far better than people can, because we all have biases, we have filters, we look at something. And a lot of times it's, more attractive people get hired more. More attractive people get paid more. But sometimes a person who isn't more attractive, you could actually hire them because they have much more potential that you're not giving them credit for, because you're just judging them by their looks. And that's what humans do. We judge each other by our looks. AI can go deeper than that. AI can ask questions that human beings might not ask. AI can look for all the correlations between the answer during a job interview and what a person actually performs like another person with similar answers, right? So AI can construct a model for different personalities and start to understand which type of people are right for which roles and who they should hire and who they should pass on. This is one element of a manager. Another is team building. People are good at team building. People will always be necessary in building teams. But in managing, coordinating events, giving feedback, we've all had bad bosses. We've all had mediocre bosses. It's not too often we get a great boss. But an AI could literally be the best boss ever. Because the AI could always be there for us. Always answering our questions, always helping us, always training us, teaching us to be better, setting goals for us that are realistic and walking us through those. Our normal boss is too busy, and they're human, and they get upset, and they may yell at us. The AI would never yell at us. It would always be more constructive, because that's how it would be programmed. Another function of boss is assigning tasks. AIs could do this very well. They can do this today. They can coordinate things and assign tasks very efficiently, a lot of times more efficiently than human beings can, because they can do it based on data, not based on emotions, like how I feel about this and what is the priority. They can really look at the results they're going to get, track those results. And that brings us to our next one, measure our performance. So AIs will be measuring our performance in the workplace. They will be singling out which employees are great, which ones need to get promoted, which ones aren't doing well, which ones need to get support, and which ones need to get fired. So if you haven't been fired by an AI yet, and you haven't been hired by an AI yet, just wait. It is coming. Lastly, providing feedback. Performance reviews. When your boss gives you reviews and tells you how you're doing and sets out a career and a path for you. AI will literally do this function too. It could do it right now. And there are AIs out there that are literally writing performance reviews and giving people feedback already on the job. We will see this taken to the next level. As the AI gets more data about our individual performance on the job, the AI will be able to do this better and better and better until it outperforms people. So will AI be our bosses in the future? Absolutely. Companies will use them simply because they work so well. We, as people, will like them because they're actually more effective than human bosses. So this is definitely a big trend in AI. Predictive AI, another amazing trait of artificial intelligence, is to predict the future. We have AIs right now that can literally predict whether people will have heart attacks. AIs that can literally predict people's actions. Israelis have developed AI cameras that can look at people and predict whether they are going to shoplift, whether they are going to steal a product off a shelf before they steal it. So the AI can be looking, just by how the person walks up and down the aisle, how they glance around, what they're doing, they can pattern match that to other shoplifters who have shoplifted in the past that they caught on camera and analyzed and trained the data on, and then they can alert the store. This person is about to shoplift. Watch them or get them out of your store. Same with security cameras outside buildings. The AI will be able to predict who's a normal pedestrian and who's looking to break into that building. we will have these AIs because we have a zillion cameras everywhere, literally analyzing everything people do and using it to make society safer. They even have AIs right now that judges are using to determine whether convicted people convicted of a crime, should be let out on parole in the United States. Like the AI is determining what their recidivism rate is. Will they commit a crime again? What is the likelihood? And that brings us to social problems. Like, it sounds great, you know, if an AI can tell us better than human beings analyzing it, a parole board, whether this person should be let back into society, whether they will commit another murder, whether they will, you know, go and sell drugs or commit some other crime. If an AI can tell us more accurately, why shouldn't we use it? We should use it. All of us, you know, we should. However, there are dangers because AIs aren't perfect. They are trained on data. And that data could be biased. It could be biased by skin color. The color, you know, it could say people with a certain skin color, because they are in a certain socioeconomic condition or certain neighborhoods, they might be more likely to commit another crime, so we shouldn't let them out of jail. But that's wrong, because we have to look at the individual. We can't just look at a general pattern created by a computer when the data itself is biased, because essentially we are locking up more people of a certain type, whether they have darker skin or certain physical traits, we are locking them up more, that they would necessarily commit another crime. Because at the end of the day, it isn't how you look that makes you commit a crime, it's who you are. And can an AI do this accurately? So far, I have my doubts. Like, the data out there is just too biased. And we need to understand that this is a problem that doesn't just apply to letting people out of prison and back in, introducing them back into society. It applies to job interviews. You know, if you go to a job interview, it may be judging you on traits which are really irrelevant to who you are. They're just generalized data, and the data itself is biased. So they're saying, we're not going to hire a person who looks like this. We're not going to hire a person who talks like this. These, because they're not a right fit for the job. These are serious social problems that we need to address, because all of us will be perfected. They could say that, oh, people with glasses, you shouldn't hire people with glasses because they aren't as smart as people without glasses. Silly things like that. AI can make these mistakes if they get the wrong data. And societal data, because data generated by society is generated a lot of times based on prejudices. We need to, there's actually whole schools of education right now and engineering that are used to unbiased data, to remove bias from data. It's an extremely hard thing to do, but it's something that is absolutely necessary moving forward. AI superintelligence. Big thing, right?